If there's one wish you would have for Germany specifically, what do you think it would be?
Yes, and it's about cars.
Welcome, Power to Drive 2026. We're back with the podcast series. Very excited to be here with a partner and a dear loved customer of ours, Max. Maybe introduce yourself a little bit.
I'm Max. Thank you for having me. I'm the founder and CEO of Heimladen, a German company focusing on charging infrastructure, obviously based on Zaptec, for residential and office buildings.
So we see a lot of your stuff on LinkedIn. You share a lot of projects, and a lot of them are Zaptec projects, which we're excited about. But tell us a little bit on what you're focusing on, what the challenges may be. But you're in a very specific area of electrification in Germany, and one that's also seen as almost the toughest. So how would you describe your main business focus?
So you describe it as the most challenging one. I see it as the one with the most perspective. I think if you picture that every parking spot that we have somewhere will eventually have a charger, that's huge potential. And that's what we're going for. So it's going to be a long way. It has been a long way up to this point. But I feel like every parking spot needs to be a charging spot eventually. And when somebody realizes driving an EV can be so comfortable, then they never want to go back, just like they never want to go back to a combustion engine car. So our business model is pretty straightforward, to be honest. It's a full service approach. Real estate owners approach us with the need for charging infrastructure in one or multiple of their buildings. We go and check them. They get an offer, and we build it for them. And then once it's built, with all the challenges that come with the process of building charging infrastructure in Germany,
As they come along,
we then go over to operating the site and making an offer for the end customer to purchase or subscribe to a Zaptec charging device. We supply the green energy, we bill it, we service it, we provide the customer service, and that's it.
Okay. So you mean Heimladen stands literally for home charging in German? A little lesson for you all there. Where did the idea come from? What made you start Heimladen?
So it's the most obvious answer to this. I had this problem myself. I used to live in a 8-party multi-family building, and I was the first one to need a charger for my then brand new Tesla Model 3 Performance. It was red. It was beautiful. And I had to go and speak to all of the other apartment owners. And back in the day, the legislation was that 100% of the co-owners had to approve building charging infrastructure. They did approve. I built my charging point, and once I was done, they all wanted one for themselves, so we did it all over again. And then that's when I realized there isn't an offer like we offer it today, like a full service solution where you can simply order your charger, just like you would order an internet connection or streaming or a new phone or anything like that. And that's where the penny dropped, and I thought, this is something that we're going to need. Did some market research and found that utilities and the usual suspects for this kind of infrastructure work weren't offering anything, and that's why I started to found the company. And fast forward to today, there's 2 of us as the founders. You've met Christian,
Of course.
he's the technical guy. I'm the other guy doing podcasts, and we've built it now for almost 6 years, and it's been a hell of a ride.
Well, especially, I think there's a study from 2023 from ADAC, and I think they've asked multi-family owners, renters as well, how they see the difficulty or where they see the difficulty in getting charging infrastructure installed. And I think it's 55% said that they have problems. It takes time to get it installed, which sounds kind of 50-50, but it's also, think about the fact that we're still speaking about a small portion. The 100% is really just EV owners. And we've seen this in other countries where the electrification takes time. The most challenging is the multifamily house, because single home charging is pretty straightforward. I think
you could even do it yourself.
You shouldn't, unless you're an electrician. But technically, you could. When you started the business, what was the biggest challenge? Because by then it was 2020. So 2020, I don't have the number in my mind, but I remember a government incentive was just about to hit, and from now to where we were back then, it's quite the jump. So how hard was it to start the business?
Um, it's definitely challenging, especially as a first-time founder. There's so many things you just don't know, where you wake up one day and it's just a different. Every day is a different challenge, from simple admin stuff all the way to legislation that you didn't know about, but you need to keep in mind. What I found the most challenging was finding the right people to do it with. So that's why I'm really happy to have a co-founder who handles all the technical stuff. And then I was very, it sounded very intuitive how I described the business model, but the way to get to this business model was definitely a journey, because we started out thinking all we need to do is offer the wall box, and then the question of, electricity came about, and billing, and the wall box not being enough. You need the installation. Before the installation, you need the planning. So that's how the team, the company, the team, the business model, the offer that we make grew over time. And in the first couple of months, and in the first 1 to 2 years, maybe, we just learned a lot what the real estate industry really expects from us. And at the same time, we learned to define who is the ideal target group. Because some people will do it themselves because they have the means to do so. And in some cases, everything that we offer isn't necessarily needed, and that's totally fair. But I think we found a good share of the market which really honors and values what we do, and we've been fairly successful in rolling out charging infrastructure.
There's one question I've never asked you. I didn't always wanted to ask you this. Not that serious. But what is the number one question, if there is one, that you always receive the first time you pitch your offering to an association in a multifamily house? And has that question changed from 2020 to today?
There isn't that one question, but like you said, the answer, the questions and answers don't change. So people, especially in Germany, I think, really want to understand how the pricing works. They don't want to pay too much. I think that's fair. But we need to make a living out of the business model. So there's that discussion that we always have, especially around electricity prices, because that's obviously the majority of the cost that you're going to accumulate over the period of time that you're charging. So we're discussing a couple of euro cents up and down sometimes, because people think they could have it to a couple of cents cheaper. But we need to make a margin somehow. So that's like a top 3 question. The other question is around the hardware. So regarding wall boxes, for example, how long they last, what if they break, what if a new generation comes out. That's a typical topic that we discuss. And then, being a young company that we are still, there's that question of what if Heimladen disappears, goes bankrupt or whatever. So I think those are the 3 main topics. And I guess it shows how broad the topic is, right? From electricity prices, which sounds like an operational thing, and some people don't even think about it, but for some people it's a showstopper. It's too expensive. Some people like to get really technical, and some people just worry about the operational part entirely. Operations breaking down and people not being able to charge, which is a fair question to ask, I guess. But those questions have been, I guess, the most frequent ones.
I think there's also, from single family home to multifamily home, 2 things, and one of them people overthink and others underestimate. There's another thing people underestimate. One is the overthinking part is the pure electrification of just getting people to charge, which ultimately is what it's all about. Then there's vehicle to grid, my favorite topic at this event as well, where I think the potential in itself is massive if we look at it, especially at a scale of multifamily houses. So we're not just talking about a single solar panel or a single installation with one charger, one car, but of course what goes beyond that. Is this a topic that's coming up in multifamily as well? Or is it still just the basic questions on charging and what happens if?
Both. for a couple of months and years where we started out, I really dreaded these kind of really deeply technical questions, because I thought, we have bigger problems. We have the problem of, having electrification at all, and, getting the EVs into the buildings. And there was always the odd nerd which wanted bidirectional charging and V2G and dynamic pricing and so on. We are now the company in Germany who's, pushing innovation in these fields. We were the first company to offer dynamic tariffs, for example, in this very complex setup with a single meter but multiple wall boxes, and, an operator like us billing individuals for their charging needs. And the same we want to do for V2G. So when eventually we're going to be able to, shift electricity back into the grid or back into the building, then we want to be the first ones to make a intuitive business model for ourselves, obviously, but also an exciting offer for the EV drivers, because the kilowatt hour that we control together, we as an operator, but also the EV driver as somebody who's allowing us to access the battery, that needs to be valued and needs to be fairly priced. And I feel like we're in a position to be one of the companies shaping how that's going to play out in this very complex setup. While it's difficult to argue how complex it really is, because people see a charger and they compare it to the single household situation, which is completely different. So there's lots of education to do, and like I said, it needs to be an intuitive solution, which is going to give us a lot of headaches, I guess, to find the right approach. But I'm really excited about it, because we do it because we love all this technology and all the possibilities that it opens up, and more people should be able to access it.
I researched a number and I forgot the number. So how many parking spots would you say are currently under your wing in terms of partnerships you have with real estate companies, with building associations, housing owners? So is there a number you can share on how many parking spots, so to say, are within your reach?
Sure, and it's very transparent on our website. You can go look it up, and it keeps growing. Currently, it's around 15,000 parking spots that are under our operation. Not all of them have a charger, obviously, but it's the potential that we've built up to this point. And what I like to tell people is that these infrastructure solutions, they grow. They start out with maybe 10 chargers, and a couple of years later there's going to be 20, and every now and then we need to go in and do additional installation to be able to service more chargers, and that's why every day at Heimladen is a little bit different. There's a new inquiry for a completely new project from a customer you haven't heard of, and then the next day there could be somebody raising their hand saying, we're running out of electrified parking spots. We need more chargers to be outfitted, and that's really exciting project work, infrastructure work. I guess eventually we're going to have a saturated market like in the Nordics, but and they have their own set of challenges, I guess.
Oh, yes.
But, for now, it's really exciting to be such a relevant player, I guess, in the electrification in Germany.
So, of course, the marketing team forces me to ask that question in these things. So why Zaptec? Why do you work with Zaptec? What do you like about the product?
Fair point. So when we started out, I personally felt that the hardware solution needed to be very simple. And I didn't like the way that wall boxes were made up to that point, because for me as a non-technical guy, I only have a little bit of engineering background. It just didn't make sense how complex the installation was, and how expensive a charger was, to be honest. And I really like how cost efficiently and scalable we can now build charging infrastructure with the help of your product, but also the installation methods that are possible thanks to your product. And we've really embedded this into the DNA of our company and our business model. We make use of the modular setup of the charger. We like the way that it's retrofittable. the way that we can remove it and go back to a backplate. We like that you think about the branding aspect of it all, that we can put a sticker here and there, that it's all really thought through. And obviously, we tested you guys when you came into the German market, and we felt from day one that you were great partners, and look forward to working with Zaptec for a long time.
Us as well. Thanks for that. One last question I have for you is, if there's one wish you would have, and you can see it from the perspective of your business, personally, or from your excitement for the industry, for Germany specifically, what do you think it would be? Is there one?
Yes, and it's about cars. The German market is, not moving as quickly because we are so focused on the cars, I feel like. So I'm a car guy. I really like my new BMW. But it's hindering electrification. The way that the German OEMs are approaching electrification, how they're holding on to combustion engine cars, how they're still presenting combustion or hybrid cars as innovation, and feel like they need to service the market in that way, is just holding us all back. If they were as straightforward as somebody like Tesla or the Chinese manufacturers, or the odd player that made a turnaround like Volvo and Polestar switching to fully electric, if more people and more OEMs specifically would think about electrification in that way, we would be so much further. And I don't see that changing. It's 2026 and we're still seeing, look at this new V8 diesel bi-turbo, and so fast, and it's so whatever. I don't really care anymore. I just want electric cars everywhere, in every shape and size, and it doesn't have to drive itself, but it just needs to be electric because it just makes sense. And I just wish for people to stop, holding on to ICE cars, because it's just frustrating.
As a big fan of self-driving cars such as Waymo, I'll agree, except I do want the self-driving ones. I want to thank you for taking the time today, being a partner. We look forward to many projects. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.